Can I get your name, or do you want to give that?
My name is Ali.
Can you spell it?
Ali, and last name Dahir. I live here. Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you do?
I'm a driver. I just drive a medical transportation.
Ola Arepa in Minneapolis was heading into dinner rush Wednesday night when two plainclothed individuals entered the restaurant. That's General Manager Naomi Rathke speaking with the men who, she said, identified themselves as ICE.
Whipped out a badge really quickly and then flashed a photo of someone on their phone.
Senior law enforcement official telling NBC News ICE has begun enforcement operations in Minneapolis, all as President Trump is doubling down on his comments railing against the Somali community here, the largest in the U.S.
We should be out of here. They've destroyed our country.
This looks like a complex scheme that was set up to defraud taxpayers, our federal government.
Welcome back to the Jay Ravato Show, and do we have a show for you today? Do we? Of course we do. And on today's episode, we're going to be diving more into what Tim Walz and his constituents, Ilhan Omar and her brother, and her friends, what are they doing? What are they doing in Minnesota? What are they doing in Minneapolis, Minnesota? Why are they defrauding the American citizens? Why are they defrauding the government in the SBA fashion with PPP loans and all? It's all coming out. $8 billion. The government and the leadership knowing about this for years and never saying anything until now, until they're being held accountable for it. They're being called out for ignoring the warning signs. They're being called out for the failed policies. They're being called out for everything, but they have to be held accountable, and we want to see that. We're going to find out what's going on. We're going to bring it from under the rug. We're going to uncover where have the tax dollars been. We're going to find out on the Jay Ravato Show. Roll it.
Been reporting all week how that billion-dollar figure for how much was stolen could really be just the tip of the iceberg. Well, now we have learned that several of the whistleblowers involved in these cases believe the total amount by the time these investigations are complete could be closer to $8 billion.
$1 million. $100 billion.
Prosecutors have described this as an industrial complex of fraud with dozens of businesses set up for the sole purpose of defrauding the state of Minnesota, and that a vast majority of the folks involved came from the Somali community. Governor Tim Walz says the state has now paused those government programs and brought in outside auditors to get a better idea of how far-reaching this fraud was to try to keep it from happening again.
You know this is the moment when he gets in front of the camera because he's trying to do a damage control or catastrophe control. He's trying to get in front of the camera so he can do damage and catastrophe control. It's about to crumble. Your whole scheme and fraud industry is coming down.
My goal is to make sure that those going forward have much better tools, much more safeguards around programs to be clear that improve people's lives, that help, whether it's children with autism, whether it's childcare, whether it's housing, whether it's food, nutrition, and those things are absolutely paramount. And if folks are going to commit crimes here, thinking because our generous spirit and our programs that we have is going to give them some kind of cover, they are sadly mistaken.
I just want to know where that energy was about 5 to 6 years ago when Joe Biden was in office and when you were getting all the money, when you were reaping the benefits. I just want to know where was that energy.
Walz maintains that as soon as any of these fraud issues were raised, they were looked into by the state. But whistleblowers allegedly claim that the concerns over fraud in these programs were repeatedly raised to both Walz and other state officials who dismissed them and then even retaliated against the whistleblowers for raising the concerns. State Republican lawmakers say all of these federal investigations that are now happening will finally bring light to an issue that has been ignored for years.
That's my whole issue. The Biden administration, that's my whole issue. They have a problem with priority decisions. They have a problem with responsibility. They have a problem with identity issues. They have a problem with accountability. Coming to the forefront, coming to the table and being accountable, putting your hand up and being honest. For the position that you're in, you're lacking priority. I don't know what Joe Biden was talking about. He was using the auto pen, but he was doing everything else but uncovering this fraud. That took 48 hours, but took you 5 years. Took them 48 hours.
There are some very strong allegations against the administration. Either the Walz administration is incredibly incompetent or they're complicit At this point, I don't see how you see it any other way.
DHS has dubbed its new ICE operation in the Twin Cities is Operation Metro Surge, and in its first 3 days, the agency says it has made at least 12 arrests, including 5 Somali individuals, several with previous convictions for fraud.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I get your name, or do you want to give that?
My name is Ali.
Can you spell it?
Ali, and last name Dahir.
Can I just test how long you've been in the country?
Excuse me?
How long have you been in the country? I'm just curious.
Telling me what? 25 years.
I don't think he knew how long he'd been in the country. You tell me. Did he know how long he'd been in the? Did his boy tell him how long he's been in the country? How long has he been in the country, really?
Telling me what? Yeah, 25 years I live here. Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you do?
I'm a driver. I just drive medical transportations.
Great.
I'm going to do the rest of the show standing up. He has not been here for 25 years. I'm going to do the rest of the show standing up because that guy is now under investigation. Some type of... We're going to find you. And I think they already did.
Ola Arepa in Minneapolis was heading into dinner rush Wednesday night when 2 plainclothed individuals entered the restaurant. That's General Manager Naomi Rathke speaking with the men who, she said, identified themselves as ICE.
Whipped out a badge really quickly and then flashed a photo of someone on their phone. And then they said, we're looking for this person. I said, this person doesn't work here.
Naomi refused to let the men into the restaurant's back of house.
Have you ever heard of harboring a fugitive? What's the reward in Minneapolis for harboring a fugitive?
She says the men told them the restaurant was surrounded and they'd be waiting outside for the individual they were looking to apprehend.
I think it's posturing. I think it's intimidation.
Ola Arepa's owner and chef, Christina Wynn, says her restaurant closed early that night and safely escorted employees to their cars.
You really have to do what Naomi did and just stay strong and just know, don't let them intimidate you.
Senior law enforcement official telling NBC News ICE has begun enforcement operations in Minneapolis, all as President Trump is doubling down on his comments railing against the Somali community here, the largest in the U.S.
The Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country.
Minneapolis City Councilman Jamal Osman was born in Somalia.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, walk down the street with me with this theory. Follow me. If you have someone who's at the top in Minneapolis that's from another country, Somalia, and he's trying to do fraud, say, for instance, he calls the governor. He gets an okay. He calls all of his friends. They start coming from Somalia. All of them, all over, just crowding in, just getting jumbled up. Not that it's a bad thing that they're coming to America, but they're not doing it the correct way, and they're doing fraud. The top, the leaders from Somalia, he called his friends. He told them to come. He called the governor. He said it's okay. And then $8 billion of fraud was born. Poof, we solved the mystery.
It has made at least 12 arrests, including 5 Somali individuals, several with previous convictions for fraud.
Loeffler is announcing, quote, despite Governor Walz's best efforts to obstruct, SBA continues to work to expose abuse and hold perpetrators accountable, full stop. She is here with me now in studio live. Thank you so much and good morning. Good to see you.
Aisha.
I know you're digging into this. We remember hearing about stories of fraud with all of this COVID-free money that was given away, especially during the Biden administration when the Democrats were in power. Talk to me about how this is different, because I don't think it's that easy to commit fraud. I mean, someone has to be explaining to these people how you do it.
That's right, Aisha. This looks like a complex scheme that was set up to defraud taxpayers, our federal government, of needed funds that would have gone out during COVID for hungry families, for children, for small businesses. And so when I first heard of the billion-dollar corruption, my mind immediately went to PPP. And I said from day one when I came in, it's a new day at the SBA. We are going to crack down on the fraud that the Biden administration completely overlooked, swept under the rug for 4 years. And it wasn't that hard. Within 48 hours, we already found $1 million worth of fraud within the Minnesota Somali crime network. And we're going to continue to investigate and work with our federal law enforcement partners.
Example sticking out, concerns a program to help recovering addicts find stable housing. Initial estimates for the housing program was for just under $3 million annually. But an indictment shows grifters fraudulently billed Medicaid more than $100 million last year alone. Garrett Tenney is live on this out of Chicago.
The ICE agents have come out to the street level to stop the fraud on the street level. They're coming in, they're stopping the fraud from the government, from the leader, all the way down to the illegal immigration in the city. $2.6 million in fraud. The healthcare scheme is over, the welfare scheme is over, all the schemes are coming to an end. And just on cue, Ilhan Omar, I like to call her Idiot Omar, don't be like me. Ilhan Omar comes to clean up the mess, almost similar to Tim Walz. She comes to clean up the mess with the broom and the mop, and her words, she couldn't even get out the words because she can't explain the idiocracy. She can't explain the fraud schemes that they're running in Minneapolis. Her and her team, her constituents, her friends, they all were partying in the streets. They were letting all their friends in, illegal or not. And now the lights have cut on. Last call. Listen to the word salad. Listen to how she fumbles over her words. She can't get it together. She can't get it out. Roll it.
It's mind-blowing how much money is out there. Taxpayer dollars, by the way,
right.
Our money that we don't have a clue where it's at. This is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, and she was on the other day on another network claiming that the fraud got out of control because this program via the government didn't have the right guardrails. Watch.
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, you know, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
You know, she couldn't find the words to say because she was lying. She didn't know what to say. She tried to point fingers and pass the buck. She said something about a third party and, well, she's lying, bro.
Let you take a bite at that.
Well, that word salad cannot distract from the fact that this is exactly what the democratic socialist welfare state is. It's massive fraud where officials look the other way, enrich themselves for it, and then hardworking Minnesotans, hardworking Americans pay for it in the form of taxes, and they have their benefits taken away from them on their backs. So this is why we're cracking down. We're drawing a line and saying you will never get government benefits again when you defraud the government.
You know, on that note, Kim Strassel wrote a great piece in the Wall Street Journal. This is her column about the lesson in this Minnesota fraud scheme. She writes, we need to move many people off government dependency, not just for moral and societal reasons, but because government has an obligation to taxpayers and to the truly needy to right-size and return to a system that can function. What do you think of that?
Well, Kim's exactly right. And I think one of the interesting things about the Democrat shutdown that hurt families and small businesses for the last 43 days was the exposure of how broad the welfare state is.
This is why this is so important. You have to understand that 40 billion Americans on food stamps is a problem. It's an epidemic. If we have 40 billion people, 40 billion Americans, this is not political, racist or black or white, or this is not about discrimination. This is not about Somalia. This is not about Minnesota or Minneapolis, really. The bigger picture is that we have billions of people taking advantage of the government, taking advantage of the people that pay into the tax system, including you, maybe yourself. They're recently, just now, uncovering it. They're currently putting guardrails. They never had guardrails on anything, not the health care, not the welfare, not the education, not the teachers, not the gender equality, not the books. They haven't had guardrails on anything.
And that's why the working families tax cut is so important. It includes work requirements for receiving welfare, and we have to reform welfare because it's going to be paid for on the backs of hardworking Americans if we don't. And that's what's exciting about the One Big Beautiful Bill is not only are we reforming welfare to encourage people to get back in the workforce, but the small businesses I talk to every single day whose top concern is a skilled workforce. We bring people back into being citizens, the dignity of work, and being part of something instead of expecting a handout. And that's what we are drawing a hard line on here and saying it needs to be available for the people who need it, not for the people who want to finance a lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are tonight. From Ilhan Omar's word salad, from Tim Walz pretending like he doesn't know anything about $8 billion $8 billion. Coming out of the shadows now saying that he's putting up guardrails and he's arresting people all of a sudden. One thing is clear. From ICE kicking in the fraud machine's door to Ilhan Omar's word salad, and you know what that usually means. She can't find the words to tell the truth. This wasn't an accident. This was a system set up with no guardrails, no oversight, no leadership until federal agents came in and had to clean up the mess that they made in Minnesota. When fraud becomes normal, when politicians protect voting blocks instead of taxpayers, when whistleblowers are silenced, you don't get programs, you get chaos. And you get Ali standing out in front of a restaurant talking about he's been there for 25 years. More arrests are coming. Minnesota governor and the leaders tried to cover it up. They tried to hide it, but more arrests are coming. More crackdowns are coming, and the investigation is expanding. We're going to be here every step of the way, and we're going to bring it right to you on the Jay Ravato Show. See you on the next episode.